welcome to the Website Investing Show. Today I am joined by Stephen Hockman. Stephen, thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're very, very pleased to have you on. We had you on about 6 months ago. I think it was on our podcast with James, and we just wanted to get you back on just to get some more knowledge of you based on on-page SEO. So let's see who we have already. We have Luke, Brian, we have Mark as well on the stream, which is lovely. I know you kind of introduced yourself when you were on our stream 6 months ago, but could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and a little bit about your background and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of niche website builders and everything you all do. And so essentially my story starts in the early 2000s. The way I got started in this business was I was just looking for something to do online, and I stumbled across this guy named Ed Dale, and he had come out with like this little 30-day challenge video series where he taught people how to make their first dollar online by using free website platforms and free stuff. And so that's really where it all got started. I followed his little course. It was free at the time, I think. And I made my first dollar online reviewing Bose headphones. And so when I saw that first Amazon dollar come in, I was hooked from that point forward. So I dove into SEO, niche website building since then, and it's just essentially taken over my life. And now I blog about it full time at SEO Chatter, and have built and sold websites, the whole gamut. So yeah, that's kind of the quick version of my story.
That's lovely. That's lovely. It's very addictive once you get your first check, your first payment. You're like, this is awesome. And you just want to keep going and going and going and building. So have you got like a portfolio of sites that you work on? Like, is it different niches, like all that sort of thing?
So up until about a year ago, I had a portfolio of sites, and I had some really high earning ones. They were primarily Amazon associates and display ads. And then I sold that portfolio off because I had an interested buyer that gave me a pretty good payout for that portfolio. And now I just manage SEOchatter.com. And now I'm trying to teach SEO to people in a free way so that they can grow their sites. And then I have like just a couple like little fun sites I mess with. They're not really generating a ton of revenue, but they're playgrounds for me to test my ideas and stuff like that. So now I'm just trying to give back to the community in every way I can through SEO Chatter.
That is wonderful. It's really nice when you go through, obviously, learning about something and kind of become an expert in it, and then just sharing that knowledge. That is just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So, as Luke has mentioned, please like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Welcome to everyone that's joined right now. So, the agenda for this session is going to be us talking about on-page SEO. So after we have completed that chat, I'm going to, of course, tear down 2 H domains that are available in our inventory. So please make sure you ask questions whilst he's here. We want to take as much information and knowledge from him as possible. So I'm going to get to it then. Let's begin with the first question, because obviously we are in 2023. So see kind of what's the best practices. So what are the best SEO on-page practices for 2023 that you can recommend?
Yeah, so the best practices for 2023, in my opinion, are really the best practices that have kind of led us up to this date with just a couple few nuances. And really what that means is you want to optimize specific HTML elements on each page for your main target keywords. And you want to do that for the primary keyword and the secondary keyword. And what that does is that will give Google and other search engines the signals they need to help rank that content for relevant search queries. And then moving into 2023, what's become important, even more important, I think, is focusing on semantic SEO, where you're actually including content sections and relevant words that are variations to those keywords, connected entities to those keywords, etc., because you need to prove that you're an expert on the topic and you have the information that the search engine crawlers want to find to essentially rank you for that content. And what I mean by that is, you could optimize a web page in all the key spots, which we could talk about a little bit later, for your exact match keywords. But if the content doesn't include other relevant words that help boost that signal, then you're probably not going to rank very high for those terms you're targeting.
Okay. So do you mess around much with schemas or anything like that of that sort?
So schema can really help your web pages deliver better rich results and get the different features in the SERPs. On my personal site, I'm not really doing that because I'm a one-man operation and it's just an extra step in the process. And so I haven't really been doing that because I'm just trying to crank out as much content as possible as fast as possible. But if you have the time to put into schema, I definitely recommend you do it because there's examples where like, let's say you're doing a how-to guide. Well, you can use schema to put the how-to steps that you've written about along with pictures. And then on like mobile, when you come up, you can have a little sliding carousel of the how-tos. And so that's something that definitely you should do if you have the time to invest in doing that.
Someone is saying, I hate schema and found it difficult to implement.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that's the other thing. It gets into a real technical area of SEO that a lot of people aren't comfortable with. But there's a lot of plugins out there now and services where you can kind of point and click and get that stuff. One thing I will suggest though, like if you don't feel comfortable touching schema, and you don't really want to mess with it and you're just trying to crank out content fast, the one thing you should do at least, and the other SEO experts tend to agree on this, is you want to at least have schema that explains your organization and your address and your phone number and have that on the website, because that's becoming a more important signal that you're a real trustworthy site. And so I saw an interview with Kyle Roof a little while ago, and he was explaining that in depth, saying, and I just kind of been doing it for years, but he said, hey, look, you got to act like a real business. And part of that is having those credentials on the site in the schema. And so you can outsource that to Fiverr if you need to. Just get that on the page because it really helps.
Okay, that's a great tip. If you hate schema, definitely implement that. Talking about creating a real business, are you one to use AI content at all, or do you just do all human written content?
So at this stage in my SEO Chatter site, it's all human written by me because there's just a certain level of expertise that goes into it. And I have outsourced some of it, but I tend to have to go back in and have to fix that content because there's just factual errors. And so I'm in the process of trying to scale up by having other people help me with, like basic definitions or, basic terminologies, as well as just, like what is X, for example. But when it comes to the how-to guides, I can't really outsource that very well without finding another expert. And for AI generation, I've been playing with it and using it. It's funny that you mentioned that because with such the big uproar with Google Bang, with Bang and Google with their new AI tools, there's a search engine named You that's already got like a playground for that, for using AI chat. And so I was in there the other day and I literally was like, let's just test this out. I'm going to take an article and I'm going to use their chat prompts to help write that article. So I basically typed in each section and then took their content, put it in an article and just rewrote it a little bit and then put it out. So I essentially wrote like a 2,000 word article in like 30 minutes using the chat feature of You. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah, very interesting. I'm not sure whether you've been following the bot news as well. I'm sure you probably heard.
Yeah, it didn't really land well on people yesterday. But I think that's interesting too. I made a comment on Twitter that when all these search engines add chat functions and they deliver the AI results, like I feel like AI writing assistants are going to kind of maybe die off because you can just get all that information for free from Google. And so essentially Google, Bing, Neva, You, like they're just going to become our content writing assistants. Like that's the information they want to serve users. So I'm just going to grab it and put it into my articles, in a unique way. So it's not just, plagiarized or copied, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to the schema, Life Lessons has asked, can we add a phone number to informational site?
Yeah, definitely. So you can add that through schema. You can put a phone number. A lot of people, let me touch on that for a second. I know a lot of people when they're creating these niche sites, that's a big fear of them. They're like, well, how do I add that signal of, trust when I don't want to put my home address or my home phone number, et cetera, right? I feel like if you're going to run a real business, you should really have those elements in place, even if there's a way you can kind of just make them generic to use on all your sites. I mean, there's so many different ways you can create virtual phone numbers, virtual businesses, etc. So you don't have to put your home address on those sites. You can have one address that manages all your sites that, is easily to get out there, and it costs you a couple bucks a month just to maintain that.
Yeah, that is a good point, actually. I'm sure there's definitely ways around it. If you really want, you can definitely do it. So, speaking of other on-page SEO best practices, do you think that internal backlinks as important or more important than external backlinks? What's your opinion on that?
Internal links?
Yes, internal linking.
Yeah, I think internal linking is a very underutilized yet powerful way to help boost your site's rankings in the SERPs. Spencer Hawes has done studies on this. Kyle Roof has done studies on this, and like the general consensus is like, about 3 to 5 internal links are equal to about 1 backlink. So whenever you write an article, look for other pages you can immediately create internal links so that you can give that internal authority to that page. And Google even states in their guidelines that, web pages that are linked to are showing signals that that's important for the user. So if you have an orphan page with no internal links, you're basically telling the algorithm, this isn't a very important page. I really don't want people to see it. Or maybe it's just for, a landing page for sending ad traffic. So like whenever I do my websites, like as soon as I publish an article, I immediately create like 5 internal links from other relevant pages because I'm just showing Google, hey, look, I've got the on-page SEO signals. The keywords are in the right spot. I've got the semantically related words in the right spots. So I've got these signals. And so Google's like, okay, he's definitely about this keyword topic. And then you use the internal links to send internal signals for the anchor optimized keyword text. So if you're trying to rank a web page for, let's say it's just a term like, what is a Tesla car, right? What is Tesla? You want other pages on your site that have that anchor text. What is Tesla? Pointing to it. Because you're confirming the signals that that's the keyword phrase it should rank for on Google. So you've got the on page, you've got the internal links, and then after that, if you can get backlinks coming into the site that say, what is Tesla? You basically, checked all the boxes. So yeah, definitely internal linking, do that. It's underutilized. The better you can do it, the better it's going to end up being.
I agree. I think it's free, but it's surprisingly unutilized, and I think it's a very, very powerful tool that is, again, free.
Can I mention one more thing about that? Just because this is another confusing thing about internal linking. A lot of people, and I know Charles Float, I've followed him on Twitter, and I know he mentioned this during his audits, is he has found that a lot of people with niche sites, they will mix and match anchor text and confuse the algorithm of what page should rank for a keyword. And so here's an example. Let's say you have a page called about what is Tesla, and then you have another page that's, about, Tesla car models. But there's a section about what is Tesla in it. Some people will make the mistake and they'll link to both pages with the same anchor text. What is Tesla? And so you basically confuse the algorithm. Well, which page is about what is Tesla? You're ranking to this car page, and you're ranking to this what is page. So do an internal audit and make sure you've got one keyword per web page that you're going to only use that internal link for the anchor text. Never use it for another page. Does that make sense?
That is a great tip. That is a great tip, because actually, I'm gonna actually say something nice about SEO Yoast. But SEO Yoast will, I think, pick that up because it has given me sometimes warning and saying, "Hey, you've got a link here, and you're linking to another article that's the same that you're trying to rank for this for here." So that's actually also another thing you can utilize as well. We have a question here that is something I was going to ask you to do with internal linking, and what about the exact anchor for the internal link? Is it harmful?
So exact match anchor text for the internal links are not harmful if you don't do it at a mass scale. Matt Diggity, he had done research on this many years ago where he sent 100% exact match anchors to a web page, and that essentially tanked the page. And so I wouldn't do it 100%. But if you're only doing about 5 internal links, that's not a big deal. But if you start doing like 150, it's like, wow, that's a lot. Instead, what you want to do is you want to follow a more natural link profile for the distribution ratio. What I mean by that is, let's say you have, let's say like 10 web pages, internal linking to one page. A good strategy would be, make about 60% of those internal links exact match anchor text for the target keyword, and then make about 30% of them a partial match. So if you're trying to rank for best air conditioner, have 6 of those 10 best air conditioner, and then make 3 of them air conditioner or top air conditioner, some type of variation. And then maybe the last one could just be like, like the last 2 links could be, or 3 links, whatever the math is, they could be list of good air conditioners. Let me get that focused.
Yeah, that's what to say. There you go. You're back. that's
So
that's great.
the
That's
more you
great.
scale, just kind of dilute the exact match anchor just to keep it more natural.
Would you ever internally link using a generic anchor text at all?
I would never do that because, again, there's been studies shown that can really harm your rankings. And what you're doing at that point is you're diluting the topical authority for that page. Because if you're just like, click here or read more, or go to this page, like, that's not a very good signal. And Google's guidelines, even, if you look through them, they say don't do that. They say use relevant text for that page, because we use that in our ranking algorithms to understand what that page is about.
That makes perfect sense, to be honest. It's a great tip. The Facebook user, sorry, I can't read your name because I think you're commenting on Facebook. He's saying, thank you for the answer. And Elena and Stephen, is it fine if I ask too many questions today? It's totally fine. Ask as many questions as you like. Now, going back to the same user, I think the same person, they have also asked the handsome ratio between information and review articles. Is there any?
Yeah, so that's getting to be, more important as the years go on. Funny story, not too funny for me, but when I first got into this industry, I literally had like a 20-page website that was, I think 15 of the articles were buying guides, best X for X, X for Y. And I was making a killing. I was making thousands of dollars a month. Like, it was amazing back then, 1,000-word articles, all buying guides. And then I got a manual penalty from Google for thin content. So that all just went up in smoke. And I realized, okay, things are changing now, right? And so a good strategy now is to have, at least 50-50 to maybe 60-40 informational versus buying guides, because I think the method of having all buying guides is getting, and has been for certain sites, getting, hammered by the Google updates, because Google knows you're just out there just trying to rank for best X, best X, best X, and you don't really help the user in any other way. And so I've talked about this before in other podcasts where, like a good ratio to start would be, if you're building a new website, like, put out like your top 20 best guides, right? Just do those, best air conditioner for small rooms, best air conditioner for apartments, go down the list. And then immediately start funneling informational articles to those. So create 3 to 5 informational articles with internal links that are optimized, like we talked about, to those buying guides. And so, in a couple months, you've now taken your 20-page site to, like 60, 100 pages, and you've got that optimal diversification in your content, informational versus buying guides.
Yeah, I agree. And it also became quite evident last year, specifically with the huge amount of Google updates and other things happening, that, I think you've got to have to work out that ratio and just try not to pump too many best of and reviews, guides, and stuff like that. So we have an interesting question here by creator. For topical authority, should I focus on main niche or sub niche? It is if it is, how much post should I consider to write for a niche?
Main niche or sub niche? I think what the question is, should I do a general category niche like cars, or should I focus on
Tesla.
the Ford Mustang?
Yeah.
Only talk about the Ford Mustang. I think it just depends on your long-term strategy. Is your strategy to create and flip a site quickly and make money that way, or is your strategy to build a brand and be like, I'm going all in on this site? If it's the former, if you just want to make a quick sale, then I would say focus on the Ford Mustang and only write about the Ford Mustang, because you're going to rank faster and be able to sell it quicker for a higher amount of money, I think. But if you're like, hey, I want to be in the car industry forever, and this is really just my passion, kind of like me, SEO Chatter, like that's my passion now. I'm going to focus on the broad niche, but I'm going to use verticals to get me up to that. And what I mean by that is I will first start with some Ford Mustang content, and then I'll move on to like the Toyota Camry, and then move on to the Bronco or whatever else, and just kind of do these different silos that help build up the car authority for cars. So in the long term, you can start ranking for car terms in general.
I think I'll second that. It all depends on where you see yourself in, let's say, next 5 years. So like, is that question like, do you want to thrive within the whole car space, or are you looking for a quick buck or like a quick wins here and there and optimize for that small area first and then expand further? So I second that.
Yeah, one other thing I'll mention about that is, like when you do these kind of real niche sites, they're great. And you can also do that and just have a portfolio. So, hey, I've got one website about the Ford Mustang, one website about the Toyota Camry, another website about, the Prius, and that's my portfolio. You could do that. And that can help as well, because you don't have to necessarily be like, I'm going to do this for the long term.
Absolutely. We have another question, which is the image size / pixels you recommend, because 1200 x 628 image is creating core web vital errors.
I'm not too sure about that. I don't know about that error. That seems to be like a good ratio, because that helps with Facebook shares and Twitter shares. But if you're having errors, then I don't really worry about stuff like that.
What I could suggest is maybe compress them. I use a tool to compress the images. Maybe that could help. But yeah, I think this is a pretty decent size. I wouldn't see it causing problems. But so word count is a widely discussed topic. Does it matter or does it not matter?
Yeah, so the consensus there, and I've been doing some testing on that recently, actually, because I'm part of the Ezoic network. And so Tyler Bishop, he actually had a conversation with some Google employees, and it was all about kind of around this helpful content update issue. And what he discovered through talking with some officials was, long form content, to be long form content, it actually is actually not a very good user signal if people are on a page very long. There's going to be debate about that, but essentially people want the quick answer as fast as possible so they can move on with their day. And if you've got like a 10,000 word article, when it can only be 500 words, like in the long term, it may be a problem for you. The backlinko strategy of write epic guides, that worked for a long time, but it may not work in the future. And so right now, I think the best strategy is just look at the top 10 results, see what the average word count is, and then write something within that range. So if it's 1,000 to 3,000 words, go for 1,500. Especially if you're outsourcing the content, save some money, see if it ranks. If it does, you saved yourself, whatever the charge is for your extra 1,500 words. So that's been my strategy, and I've been trying shorter content to see what's going to happen with that. And so that's just going to be a long-term test for me. But yeah, just take the top 10, see what they're doing, and just kind of mimic it. Google's essentially saying that's the depth of the content we need. So here's a quick example. I've been putting out some definition articles on my SEO Chatter site, and I mean, they're like 150 words max, because the definition of Google Bard doesn't need to be 1,000 words, and it ranks fine.
I see. Yeah, it's very debatable in the SEO industry, isn't it? Like, oh no, you should have a minimum of 1,000 or this and that and this and that. So I think this answer is pretty good. So you have another question from Creator, and his question is: right now, ChatGPT got millions of users, which will affect the information it posts as it gives straight answers. So what kind of keyword research intent should I need to focus on to rank for?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? I think what you're asking is which will affect informational posts. What kind of research should I? So I'm not sure if you're asking what do I do to rank in Chat GPT or Bing or Google when they're delivering those answers. How do you rank there? If that's the question, I don't know the answer right now. You know, the only thing I could say is continue to write good, helpful, quality content, and try to target more featured snippets with your paragraphs. Make it short, succinct, and quick. Don't make things lengthy for lengthy's sake to fill out word count. If the definition of Google Bard is only 2 sentences, then do that. But if your question is, what kind of keyword search intent should I focus on to actually continue to make money while Google potentially could be stealing all of your content for free? Yeah, I just don't know the answer right now, because it's just so new.
I agree. I second that. We have another kind of comment on, but why Wirecutter or such sites ranked on top with very less words?
Well, Wirecutter, in my opinion, in my experience, they're like really good, in-depth, lengthy articles. But typically because they've got the high domain authority, they've got the external signals that have shown they're an expert, trustworthy site in the industry, and their content delivers, it's up to par. It delivers what the user wants. And so they've earned that history of trust. And so they can write a shorter article because Google knows it's satisfying the user through their user signals. And I mean, it's unfair in many ways. I've seen, when I had a portfolio of affiliate sites, I had websites writing, like 500 words, 750, outranking me for some of my top terms. And I had a 3,000 word guide, and everyone else below me did too. And, it's unfair, but that's just, something we can just be mad about, I guess.
True. So Awais has just started out, and he's got a few questions. So his first question is, what is an easy way to index pages?
Yeah, so the easiest way to index your pages is to submit them to Google Search Console. So immediately after you publish it, take that URL, go to Google Search Console, put it in the top search bar, inspect it. Google will say it's not on this, it's not in the index, request indexing, and then hopefully it'll show up in a couple hours or maybe a day or two, depends on how new your site is. If that doesn't work, I know people have had struggles with indexing their content. Typically, that a lot of times that comes down to the quality of the content, and it's like, okay, your site isn't delivering quality and Google knows it. But a couple workarounds to that, or one workaround to that is internal links. And so create a few web pages with internal links to that page, and then submit those to Google Search Console. And then you're essentially forcing Google to crawl internal links to that page.
That is a great tip. If it's also to add to that, if your page is not getting indexed, you want to check if you're using an expired domain. You may want to check the quality of that expired domain, because we have come across some issues with before that if for some reason Google doesn't, if a domain has expired and you've revived it, and for some reason there was something wrong with the domain, or Google for some reason doesn't like it, it will just not index it. So also consider that side of things as well.
I got another tip. Let me throw one more tip out there. This is for backlinks, just because it's fresh in my mind. I created some local citations for a website, and some of them were not getting indexed. And so what I did is I literally took those URLs, put them on the about page of the website, and then kept feeding that URL to Search Console and forcing it to crawl those links. And whenever it crawled one and I saw the index page, I would take it off the about page, force recall, and I kept doing that to get them all indexed. So
wow, that is brilliant. Wow, very cool. His second question is, should I keep a regular pace in publishing articles, or should I just publish them all at once?
Yeah, that's a common question for a lot of people, especially new in the industry, because they're like, what's the right cadency for this? I say publish them all at once because you want to start getting the rankings, and then you want to get the time on your side. And what I mean by that is, you're not always going to rank page one immediately. Sometimes it takes a while. I've got a couple articles on SEO Chatter. I published them, they're in like the hundreds positions, and then after 3 months, they're like top three. So you just need time on your side. Just go all in. Don't drip feed, none of that.
I agree. The content needs time to age anyway, so you want to get it out there as soon as possible. Okay, so another common question on on-page SEO is, how many images should a post have?
Yeah, that's always a popular question when I talk to people. And it just depends on what Google wants for that search term. So if you're writing an article about kitchen decor ideas, right? Or inspiration for a baby's room, you're going to find that type of post needs probably a bunch of images, 10 to 20, because it's an idea gallery in a sense. But if you're writing a post about, how much does an elephant weigh, you probably don't need any images on that page. So just look at the SERPs for that key term and see what the competition is doing. And that gives you the answer.
That is a great advice. I agree. Recommendations to speed up a website. A lot of people struggle with site speed, and obviously having good web core vitals is a ranking factor. So how do you speed up a website?
Yeah, so I use Ezoic for my monetization, and they have a Leap platform where they take care of all that for you. And so they can help speed up your site using the Leap functions for optimization for core web vitals. Outside of that, you can use a caching plugin like WP Cache. I'm not sure what the other popular ones are, but essentially you click a couple boxes and you can basically defer JavaScript. You can lazy load images. You can check all the boxes and it'll help speed up your site. So there's a lot there that you can just do. You can make sure you have a reliable host. Don't just go with some super cheap host, because they usually, the time to first byte is bad on those. But things like that, compress your images. If you upload an image that's 1 megabyte, that's bad. Compress it to like 20 kilobytes. Things like that. So there's options available to help you. But sometimes too, like, you just can't get above a certain score. Like, you might get 80 or 70 on mobile and you're just stuck. Don't beat your head against the wall. Just move on to the next thing. Like, it's not as important as people, I think, make it out to be.
I agree. Don't try and bang your head against the wall trying to make that 100% green. It's as long as it's a good speed, nothing is laggy, nothing to worry about, I think. So speaking of plugins, what plugins do you normally have, and what plugins do you recommend for whatever purpose?
Yeah, so common plugins, let me think about what I've got. I use a table of contents plugin. Those are free. That's an important one to use because a lot of people ask me, hey, how do you get those blue site links under your listings in the SERPs? And I'm like, oh, you just add the table of contents plugin. Google finds that and adds the links. I'm like, it's that simple. And so do that. Make sure you have that. What else? A caching plugin, of course. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank, right? Oh, Table Press. I've used that a lot for my tables. I created some custom HTML to make my tables look fancy so they look better for the user. But I know there's some other competitors out there that make it easier. If you're using Amazon links, you can do the, what's the name? Is it AWP? Is that the name of it?
Yeah, something like that.
To easily insert your links. Link Whisper, oh, you got to have that. That's the internal linking tool by Spencer Hawes. I mean, that's so cheap compared to how much you're going to use it. He's always running deals, so get Link Whisper. What else? Yeah, that's all the ones off the top of my head right now.
Yep, that's fair. Do you use RankMath or SEO Yoast at all?
Oh, yeah. One of those, anyone's fine. I personally use all-in-one SEO because I do it manually. But yeah, use any of those. Make sure you have that because you want to edit the metadata. That's another on-page SEO tip we can talk about is, you want to make sure that you use that plugin so you can optimize the meta title tag. And a super simple trick there, I could talk, for days about it, but the basic answer is make sure your meta title tag matches your H1 tag, because that guarantees that Google will show that in the SERPs for your listing. Because last year there was a lot of problems where Google was choosing the H1 tag versus the meta title tag to show in the search engines. And everybody was like, what the heck's going on here? And I know Cypress from Zippy did like a big test on it. He's like, hey, this is the answer. Just copy them, make them the same. Don't think about it, and you're good.
Great. So we have two questions. The first one is from Creator. His question is it possible to rank the pages using topic authority without having backlinks?
Yeah, definitely you can for low competition keywords. So if you're seeing the green lights in tools like SE ranking or Mangles or SEMrush or Ahrefs, whatever you use, I personally use SE ranking and Mangles for my keyword research. Yeah, you can do that for a lot of the green keyword difficulty scores, especially if you interlink those pages using the strategies I talked about. I have a website, I play with where I think I built 3 backlinks to it, and it's ranking page 1 for like question-based terms.
That's wonderful. I think it's possible as well. And I think I'll second the fact that if it's low competition, it's definitely doable. But also, if you expand your topic authority so much that it's hard for Google to ignore you because you are presenting yourself as an expert, which is obviously one of those crucial EAT situations. So I think it's definitely possible, but backlinks should not be ignored or forgotten. Second question is from Asif. Stephen, what would you suggest if we are doing everything right, but Google still makes site down? Not sure what that means. Should we wait or revise in according to last update?
What would you do if we're doing everything right? It's still not ranking well. Well, I guess the question is, I would have to you is, did you suffer from an update and you're now down and you're somewhat penalized? That's a different answer versus, hey, I've created this site. It's never ranked above page 5 or 8, right? If it's the second question, then I would say you got to have a hard look. Sometimes you need another person to look at it because you get so attached to your content and what you've done. And I've been guilty of that, where I'm like, why isn't this page ranking number 1? I'm the best. And then I have a friend look at it and he's like, dude, you're missing this, this, and this. Like, you're not that good. So I would say look at the quality of the content. That would probably be my best answer. Something's wrong with the quality of the content. You may not have the semantically related the words in the page, etc. I mean, I'd have to see it to really give you a specific answer.
Emmanuel is asking, what plugin do you use to track word count? Do you use any plugins for that?
No, I mean, Google Docs does it for you. WordPress does it for you. I don't use anything.
Cool. Yeah, as Leanne has asked, Asif, please let us know how old your site is. I'm interested. We have another question from another Facebook user. Hey, thank you for the opportunity. Please, what's your recommendation on link building for a brand new old domain?
A brand new old. Maybe you're saying an expired domain. Maybe you're just saying a brand new domain. If it's a brand new domain, set up your socials. Just YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Put links on those. If you want to create like a free Blogger account, or a free WordPress account, and just create like a branded website on those free accounts, use those. I would also, if you go with the route of getting a business address, create local citations. You can get those on Fiverr for like $15 or less. Someone will go out and create you 20 to 50 citations. Those are instant backlinks that prove trust for your site. And then what I would also do, and this can take some time, but this is another strategy I've used, because link building is a hard thing for a lot of people to do. You could go to a site like Fiverr, right? And I know they get trashed for backlinks because a lot of them are junk, but you could actually go through and chat with people that have like a site in your niche and see which ones will actually give you the URL to look at. And if they do, then you can assess it and say, okay, this is niche relevant. It's not spam to death, and then buy a link on that site. I did that in the past for an outdoor site, and I literally got it was like a new seller on Fiverr. They didn't know what they're doing. And I got 6 sites in the outdoor niche because this person managed the local companies for his lawn care service. So I was like, I struck gold on that. But you can use niche website builders to build those links for you. It's just kind of a grind, but I've got a lot of tips on SEOchatter.com, with backlinks and how to get them. So if you want to dive into there, sure. that can help you too, but.
Yeah, but definitely if you're looking to, for someone to build quality backlinks, hit niche website builders up. We can help you with that. Okay, so another thing that is, when I listen to industry experts talk about content, there is one very common thing that I keep hearing over and over again. I'm sure a lot of people do as well. Is they always say, make sure you publish quality content. So what does low quality content look like so that you don't do it? Give us an example if you can.
Yeah, what I've come across for low quality content is typically there's a lot of, how to explain this? I mean, I just know, I got to try to put this into words. When I read a piece of content, I can tell someone's not an expert because they're missing those specific words I was talking about. So I'll give you an example. If you're talking about air conditioners, you need to also mention words like BTUs, British thermal units, thermostat, temperature, portable window. These are all connected terms to an air conditioner. And what I've seen with low quality content is they don't mention those. They'll be vague. They'll say, hey, this is a good air conditioner because it has some features that you really enjoy and it keeps you cool, right? That's so generic and fluffy. Instead, it should say, hey, this is a good air conditioner because it has 5,000 BTUs, has a 2-way switch on the thermostat control, and goes from temperature 65 degrees to 32 degrees, right? So that's very specific. So a lot of times low quality content has that just fluff, they call it.
Okay.
So that's typically it. I mean, Google's just a machine. It's reading words. I wouldn't say that low quality content has a visual appearance because that's, that doesn't matter. I don't think the visuals matter. It's just the depth of knowledge that you're sharing about an article.
Gotcha. So we have a question from S. Bain. He's asking, hi, could you give a quick overview of topical authority versus semantic SEO?
Yeah, so they're kind of the same thing. I mean, if you want to get into nuances, you could pick out the differences. There's a guy named Corey. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's like the man in the industry about semantic SEO. Is it Tujubar or something like that?
Yeah.
You look up holistic SEO, look him up. He's got a ton on semantic SEO. He's like the source for that. But essentially, you need to prove yourself an authority by using semantically related content. So, for example, if you want to rank, Corey Tugberg is what someone's saying in the chat. You basically, they're kind of the same, and you just want to make sure you're using those semantically related words. You're writing on topics that are semantically related. So, if you want to talk about how much does an elephant weigh, you also should write an article about, what do elephants eat? How much do baby elephants weigh? You just got to find the connected entities in the questions and link them all together, that way. Gotcha. And use keyword variations and synonyms on the page, right? So it's all about variations, synonyms, and connected entities. Kind of like I mentioned before, where the word air conditioner is semantically related to the terms BTUs, thermostat, temperature. Those are connected entities. And so you gotta have them. If you don't have them, you're dead in the water.
Great. Crater is asking, should I consider the rank math score for SEO?
I don't use rank math, but everything I've heard, it's good. My own personal practice on on-page SEO is I put my keywords in specific spots all the time, and I don't look at the scores because I just know where they go. So it could be red, it could be green, But as a beginner, yeah, sure, I think it's fine.
Great. Facebook user is asking any tips to keep CTI high from search results.
Yeah, so to keep CTR high, you can use things like power words that engage people emotionally. That's kind of like what the BuzzFeed does. They use these, words that just pull you in, like amazing, awesome, um, negative. Just emotionally charged words. Also use numbers. So if you're writing an article about, the best skateboards, you know, and everyone else has 10 best skateboards, make yours 11 best skateboards. There was a guy named, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. He had his channel blogging something. He's the niche IQ guy. He discovered that if you use an odd number instead of an even number, that helps drive up clicks. So 11 best skateboards versus 12. Um, what else? Make sure your keyword is in the search, in the meta title. You want that front loaded so that when someone's looking for the best skateboards, it says 11 best skateboards. It doesn't say 11 of the newest best skateboards. You don't want that. So those
Agreed.
are some tips.
Is content length really a ranking factor? I've done much research, but still finding it difficult to reach a conclusion.
Yeah, content length directly is not a ranking factor, but there's correlations where, you know, 1,000-word article that's going to describe the history of China probably isn't going to cut it because it's such a long history of China. Same with like a 200-word article, might have to be 3,000. Just look at the top 10 ranking SERP results, and you're going to get your average word count.
We have a question from Asif as well. What backlink would you choose? Relevant thread but 1 year old, where users are not coming, or thread which getting tons of traffic but that is not relevant?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would probably choose the second one because there's been some studies done that, and I think Bill Slawski, who passed away, I think it was last year, he did some explanations on this where a general surfer, if they're not going to click on the link, it's not as powerful. And so if you have people clicking on the link and driving traffic, then that's a better backlink to get in general, because that's really what backlinks are supposed to be for. And the algorithm is, this is a quality source to visit. And if you just got a bunch of backlinks that don't ever get clicked on, it's not a good quality signal.
Spot on. I guess it's hard to answer this question, obviously, because it's still very new. But someone is asking, I've seen many friends using ChatGPT to mass produce blog posts. Please, is there any downside long-term effect? Because these content seem to be doing great on search engines.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think it was yesterday Google released a new blog post and they said, hey, that thing we said about AI generated content, it's actually beneficial and you can do it, like it's so confusing because it's like, okay, you told us not to do it and now you're saying it's okay if you do it in a way that helps users. So I think the future of AI generated content is not going to be penalized if you're doing it in a good way. If you're just clicking a button and it generates your whole article, I think that's going to be a problem. The other thing I would stay away from is generated content like these sites that popped up last year where they just stole all the people also asked questions and then scraped all the answers, and every page was just like the top 100 people also asked questions. Those sites were like making a killing and they got penalized. So yeah, I think it's going to be a new way of life for a lot of people. You just have to use it smart in a way that helps people. I don't think
Yeah,
people.
I agree. I think you should still do the work. People think that you can just press a button and boom, you've got a blog post. I don't think it's as easy as that. I think people would like it to be that easy, but all in all, you're gonna have to do the work if you want to achieve results. Life lessons is asking a question. At the start, you talk about semantic SEO. Can you please explain it a bit? What exactly is semantic SEO, and what are the entities and relationships in semantic SEO? I think you just mentioned that, didn't you?
Yeah, I think the best resource for that is Tugberg,
Yeah.
Holistic SEO. I've researched it, but I'm not 100%. I'm not the man to really talk about that stuff in depth. Look him up, but essentially on the surface level, what it means is an entity is a person, place, or thing. So Stephen Hockman is an entity, and I talk about certain things online. I talk about on-page SEO. I talk about affiliate sites. I talk about niche websites. Those are things that are entities, and those are connected to my name in Google's knowledge graph because I talk about them a lot. And so when you're writing an article about a subject, if you're writing about air conditioners, like I said before, that's an entity. An entity connected to air conditioners is British thermal units. You can't talk about an air conditioner without it. And so it's just these related terms to another thing. It's kind of a weird word to understand, but once you realize, hey, it's just things that are connected when you talk about them, that's probably the easiest way to explain it.
Agreed. Another question is, based on your experience, how long does it take for a blog post to reach its peak on search engines, in brackets Google?
Yeah, I mean, that really just depends on the competition of the keyword. I've had articles I've written and they rank, top 3 in a couple hours because they're low competition. No one else is competing for them. They could be long tail phrases. But if it's a tough competition keyword like credit cards, you may never ever rank in the top 10 because those top ranking pages are so dialed in with their on-page SEO and their off-page SEO that they're locked into those top 10 spots forever. There's a guy named Ted Kubitis from SEO Fight Club who has a tool called Cora. And I think he said that one of his tests with people was, can you rank for yoga pants? And it's like, you just can never rank because those top 10 spots are locked in for years. Like you're never going to break through. So it just depends on the search term.
Great. Asif is asking, H1 is 10 best skateboards and meta entry is 10 amazing skateboards. Is it a good practice, as you told, use such words to raise click-through rate?
H1 is 10 best skateboards. 10 best skateboards is a good practice. 10 amazing. Meta entry, if you mean meta title tag, I would make them the same. I would make it 10 best skateboards, and then I would make the H1 10 best skateboards. I wouldn't make them different. You can make the H1 a little different. Like you could say meta title tag, 10 best skateboards, top reviews by a skater. And then your your H1 could be 10 best skateboards, my reviews as a full-time skater. Like it could be a little different, but keep the beginning the same.
And Facebook user has got a question. Please, can you elaborate on the importance of using HTML sitemap together with XML sitemap? Thank you.
I'm not sure what you mean by when you say use them together, but just use both. Use an HTML sitemap plugin. They're free on WordPress. If you use WordPress, that'll put a sitemap page on your site. And then also, Rank Math, Yoast, AI SEO, they all have their own XML feature, and you can feed that to Google Search Console. So just do them both. There's automatic ways to do it.
Sweet. So one last question from me would be, obviously we all write content, we try to optimize for SEO, we're trying to rank at the top, but ultimately our goal is to make money. So let's talk ads. What are the best ad networks that you can recommend?
Yeah, so the best ad networks I recommend, the big 3 are Ezoic, Mediavine, and AdThrive, and they all have their different requirements. Ezoic is the best in terms of accepting people. You don't even I've had sites accepted now where you don't even have to have traffic. They just look at the domain to make sure the content is quality. They used to have, I think, a 10,000 session or page view threshold. They got rid of that.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend Ezoic for probably most viewers that are new to the industry, because they've got great plans and you earn more than AdSense. I use them personally. If you get to the 50,000 session threshold, you could consider Mediavine, because some people prefer their technology when it comes to the ease of use. But if you're with Ezoic long enough, you'll probably just enjoy the money coming in. It won't matter. But then AdThrive, I think it's 100,000 sessions. So it just depends on the level you get to. Those are the big names. There are some other ones for small publishers that aren't very popular, but you really aren't going to earn much money from them. Like you might earn a couple bucks because they just don't have the access to the ad inventory that those three have.
Agreed, agreed. Would you, if you have a site on the Zoic and you reach 50,000 sessions, would you personally move to Mediavine?
So I would not move to Mediavine because at that point, well, I mean, I've worked with them very closely. And full disclosure, I'm actually part of a beta group that helps test their tools and stuff. But it has no influence on what I stay with them or what I not stay with them. But I just wanted to mention that in case people are like, hey, you use Ezoic and you've got a connection with them. But I could move there now if I wanted to, but I'm not, because I've worked with the team enough that my ad revenue is dialed in so perfectly that, there's not going to be any advantage of me going to Mediavine. Like, we'll probably get the same RPMs, if not maybe a little different. So there's no, I mean, in my opinion, there's no advantage of switching networks, and the Ezoic team has been so great. So,
Gotcha. We have a question from Cyber Skrilla. I love your avatar, your NFT avatar. Update old articles or write new content? What's more effective if you had to focus on only one?
Yeah, if you can only focus on one, just write new articles. Just crank out as much as possible. Outsource it if you have to. Write yourself if you have to, because you could drag yourself down where you're just always updating the old stuff. And sometimes in these niches, it's volume that counts. Having a 500-page website is going to earn you more than a 100-page site. So just it's all about volume these days.
Great. So that is with our questions, and also I don't want to keep you for too long. I know you're a very busy man. It's morning over there, so you're just starting your day. So thank you so much. And if people want to find you and learn more, subscribe to your channels, etc., where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can go to seochatter.com and then go to the blog. That's where I post all of my articles. I'm very active on Twitter. You can go to Twitter and look up SEO Chatter blog, and you can find me on there. Those are the two main primary channels where you can get more of my free content.
Wonderful. Well, I think this session was extremely helpful. I hope the audience enjoyed the question. They enjoyed what you shared, and thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, thank you. I wish you a wonderful rest of your day.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye. So guys, stay on the stream because I'm going to be tearing down 2 H domains, so we're not yet finished. So the first one I would like to show you is a stockhousebrewing.com. So if you like any of these 2 H domains that I show you today, they are both available on our inventory if you go to nichewebsite.builders and go to our H domain inventory. So, Stockhouse Brewing is in the beer niche. It's 5 years old, it's DR17, and it has 85 referring domains. So, I'm going to share my screen, so stick around. This is going to be really interesting. And I'm going to go through those domains. So, I'm going to go through the first one, the Stock Brewing House first. So, okay. So, Stockhouse Brewing Co. was a brewery, and also it was kind of like a dining area where you can grab a bite to eat alongside their beer as well. So, this is kind of where they started off as. They talked a little bit about their team, the promise, the beer, etc. But later on, they changed things around, and as you can see, you have gift cards here. You can buy cans. They have online store, event tours, so they really kind of expanded further. But ultimately this was a brewery. As you can see, they have like closing hours and opening hours, etc. So let's take a look at the backlinks of this domain. So we have some really high quality ones, considering the domain only has a DR17. So we have Trulia, we have North Jersey, ProvidenceJournal.com, we have Beer Advocate, which is extremely high quality, niche relevant backlink. We have Cape Cod Times, we have some local, I think, kind of newspapers type of thing as well. We have Shepherd's Express and Daily Commercial and other journals and stuff like that. So we have a mixture of high quality news sites, if you like, and some niche relevant like beeradvocate.com, which is excellent. This is kind of the perfect ratio. The anchor text profile is pretty good because we are seeing that at the very top, we're seeing branded anchor text. So if you can see, we have stockhousebrewing.com at the very top with 33 referring domains. We have more here, more branded, and more branded. So it doesn't really get any better than that. Also, I'd like to bring up that it is a really short and small, only 21 phrases. This anchor text profile is extremely small, which is good. You don't want to pages and pages and pages of anchor text, really. So that is excellent. The best pages bank incoming links is basically where are those links pointed to. And typically, naturally, when you look at a site, naturally, if there has not been any link tactics involved, the majority of the backlinks will be pointed towards the homepage, because if people are linking to you naturally without you paying them or anything like that, they will link to your homepage. And this is exactly what we're seeing here. The homepage is getting the majority of the backlinks. There won't really be any posts that we'll need to recreate to preserve that power. We have a couple here with one backlink, but they're like really pages that we don't want to recreate anyway. So no cleanup will be required. Everything is on the homepage, really. The strategy for this niche is quite straightforward. Beer brewing and the beer niche in general is obviously a lot of people drink beer, if you have to think about that. And when there's so many people interested in something, or there are so many consumers, naturally there will be a lot of interest, questions, and things people want to know about what they're consuming. So this is definitely a niche worth getting into and thriving within it. So some of the strategy that we have prepared is informational articles on everything to do with brewing, home brewing, beer, etc. Home brewing beer is actually really popular, and it keeps picking up and picking up. A lot of people like to brew their own beer, and because this domain was a brewery, which naturally is beer brewing, we are also preserving that original relevancy of the expired domain. And when you're working with expired domains, it's essential that you preserve the relevancy. So this will be kind of our starting point, and we can expand down the line with food that pairs with beer. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because it's not just wine that pairs with food. Beer is also can be paired with certain food, and there is search volume on that specific thing as well. Then we can do dietary beer types, beer ingredients. A lot of people nowadays are, have specific requirements. Maybe they're vegan, maybe they're gluten free, maybe they're trying to lose weight, so they're looking for low calorie beers. And I've seen a lot of competitors really looking, kind of targeting that sort of content and really gaining traffic from that. So it's definitely worth considering doing. And then finally, we can definitely do listicle types of content on brewers around the US, for example, best breweries in New York. So this is going to be one of our primary strategies, probably on the second spot after brewing and brewing beer tips, etc. Now, the monetization can come from display adverts, of course, but obviously, we're obviously going to be a domain where we're going to share tips and how to brew your own beer. You will naturally require certain products and equipment and bottles or whatever you think of to brew that beer at home, right? And that equipment is not, you can't just go in and buy it from your grocery store, right? This is typically very unique equipment, which is how we can monetize. And that equipment is actually quite expensive as well. So this is where we can monetize through affiliate programs as well. Right, so I've got a few competitors to show you in that space. The first one is Beverage Beaver. So straight away, you can see that it's extremely low authority. It's DR 1.1, so much lower authority than us. In fact, it barely has any authority at all. And this example is generating 13,500 traffic per month. And I just want to show you how these guys have taken off. And they are just 1 year old, literally. Just they turned 1 year old 4 days ago. So this domain is a great example of a domain that we are going to tomb rate. And the tomb rate method is we find competitors with low authority than us. So this is a perfect example. They are doing well. This one is doing well. And then we go in and we take their best performing content, make it better with our authority and age. Hopefully we can outrank them. But first, let's take a look at what they are doing. So as I said earlier on my strategy, that the dietary and information about beer is very, very, very focused on here. For example, look, Bush Light calories. So if you're someone who is on a diet, you want to know how many calories there is in your beer, and these guys have highlighted that. We also have alcohol content. Where is Bud Light made? Is a good question. Is Bud Light and Budweiser the same company? You know, it has a search volume, so people are searching for that stuff. Beers made with rice, which is very interesting. We have beers versus beers. We have this one and this one. Where is Bush Light made? Where is Budweiser made? We have Budweiser ingredients. And then we have another beer versus beer, so Corona Light versus Corona Premier. Then we have Asahi versus Sapporo. I think they're both Japanese, but don't quote me on that. We have Corona Light versus Corona Extra calories. Again, what kind of beer is Bud Light? So as you can see, they're obviously very targeting these keywords that are working for them because they are a very new site and barely have any authority. And I think they're generating pretty decent amount of traffic. So the next one is bisonbrew.com. Obviously, this domain is much higher authority than us, but it kind of shows us what growth we can achieve within that range, right? So DR38 generating 134,000 per month, and these guys are heavily focusing on beer breweries in certain locations within the US. So if we go back on the strategy, we have listicle types of content on breweries in X city, etc. And that's exactly what these guys are doing. So if I click on the best breweries in Portland, Maine, which they are ranking for, it's a classic listicle types of content where they have just listed the locations of those breweries within Portland, Maine. And then they have obviously a little bit of information, like maybe when was the brewery opened and things like that, as you can see. Allagash is the main biggest craft beer success story, forging their own path, choosing to brew Belgian-inspired beer since 1995. Boom, I told you. It's going to be history and some information about the brewery itself, because you can't just list them with no information, right? So you have to add something. But it's essentially like a listicle. Then there's number 2, which is Bizzo Brothers Brewing Company. They have a nice picture here, which looks to be an original picture. I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't look like a stock image or anything like that. So I'm going to say well done for using original image, if it's an original image, of course. And then if we go down, it has another one and another one, another one. You get the point. So these guys are really heavily focusing on beer breweries, but they do like other things like does beer go bad and other more informational beer related rather than just breweries. But ultimately, breweries is where it's at because the breweries have got much higher search volume than, for example, other related beer queries. I suppose, like if we check the other one, like beers made with rice, it's got 200 search volume. But anyway, let's take a look at what else they're doing. Yeah, they do heavily breweries, really. We have how to make a hard seltzer. More breweries, more breweries, more breweries, more breweries, really. So, very interesting. If you're someone who likes beer or you don't like beer, but you see an opportunity here, definitely consider this domain. So I'm gonna show you the second expired domain that I have prepared for you, and it is going to be quite different to this one. It's called The Perfect Dive, and it's extremely old. It's 20 years old. It's in the diving and swimming niche, and it's DR21 with 113 referring domains. So I'm gonna do the same thing, and I'm gonna share my screen, and we're gonna go through it as well. Okay, so The Perfect Dive is exactly what you think it is. It was about diving, and it was run by someone who was very passionate about diving, and he wanted to share all of his knowledge to all the divers around the world. Basically, best places to go diving, and information about diving in itself, like how to dress when you go diving, diving locations. As you can see here, scuba lessons, dive charters, we have dive clubs, travel, photo gallery, dive sites, and the forum. So it was basically the hotspot for diving enthusiasts. If you like diving, go to this site basically. As I said, it's actually there 23, 112 referring domains. So let's take a look at those backlinks then. There's a couple here that stand out. Obviously, Wikipedia is one of them. It's a no follow, but it's still, I think there's still value in no follow links as well. We have Washington.education, CN Traveler, which is good. We have a navalsource.org. So this is, I think, a military site, but I think it's still a good backlink. It probably include, obviously, soldiers diving and stuff like that. So that makes sense. And then we have a few more links down the line, like Scuba Board as well. So definitely a couple of good links in here, which is great. The anchor text profile is good as well. We have branded quite near to the top, which I'm happy with. More branded here, more branded, and then more kind of things related to the site as well. So yeah, nothing negative to say about this. Just the same, best pages by incoming links. The backlinks are kind of going towards the homepage, I'll say, or something here that doesn't really make sense. But ultimately, we are seeing that at least most of the backlinks are going towards the homepage. So that's fine. I don't think any post would need recreating. But again, these backlinks will need to get inspected because we don't want to miss on any good opportunity here. But yeah, it looks like the majority is on the homepage anyway. So what is a strategy? Obviously, the domain is called diving. It's diving, but obviously diving and swimming kind of go hand in hand. So why not do both? So informational articles on everything scuba diving. Examples would be like beginner scuba diving guides, diving gear, where to go to dive, diving locations. As you can see, listicles on the best diving locations around the world, and then we have best time to dive in X months. So, for example, obviously the winter and things freeze, and you don't want to dive into the super cold, right? So, what are the best locations to dive in certain locations, certain months, etc. Examples include best time of the year to dive in Channel Island in National Park. And then we can look to expand to other water activities. Obviously, the domain was very heavily focused on diving. So, as I said on the previous example, it's so important that we keep that relevancy as much as possible, at least to begin with. So, we should start off with just diving. And then once we feel comfortable expanding further, we can expand to other water activities. The monetization can come from, of course, display adverts, but also affiliate programs on all things scuba diving and water sports gear. People have wetsuits when they go diving and all these goggles or whatever they're called. Everything that they need to go diving, we can try to monetize through that as well. So I have a few competitors I want to show you. Both of them are lower authority than us. They're generating decent amount of traffic. Both of them will be used for the tomb raiding method because they are lower authority than us. And the first one is called downtoscuba.com. DR10, generating nearly 10,000 per month. And let's take a look at what they do. So they do things like nude scuba diving. We probably won't be doing this, but yeah. Shark can smell blood, so obviously be careful when you're diving and there are sharks. Then we have how much are wetsuits. If you're a diver, you're gonna need a wetsuit, right? Drunk diving, we do not recommend that. Scuba diving and drinking alcohol. Nearly 10,000 people are talking about that, are asking that question. Search volume for this is insane. I do not recommend drunk scuba diving. How long can water stay in your ear? I guess this is a common problem when you're swimming, diving, water gets in your ear, etc. How deep can you dive before being crushed? Oh my god, these these queries. Jesus. What does a diver down flag look like? I have no idea what this means, but any diver will know. Can you breathe underwater with snorkel? Good question. What to wear under wetsuit, especially if you're diving in cold conditions, water is cold. Can you keep yourself even warmer, I suppose? Can you open your eyes in the ocean if you're diving somewhere in the ocean? I guess this is pretty cool to see. Do you have to know how to swim to snorkel? Fair enough. Good. So as you can see, there's definitely things we can take from here, which is good. And the second competitor is again lower authority than us. It's called socialdiving.com. It has nearly 9,000 per month traffic according to Ahrefs. And they do other things related to diving as well. Scuba dive movies. I mean, why not? Cost to scuba dive, very good, because this can go really well with our beginners guides. Best underwater camera for beginners, also a great way for us to monetize. Best wetsuit for diving, perfect for monetization as well. Diving shops, that's interesting. We could do a diving shops locations, I suppose. We can do clubs as well, because they had dive clubs anyway, so we could definitely include locations on diving clubs as well. We have what else have we got? Scuba diving jugs. Best dive bags. They do a lot of best of, so maybe this could be something this competitor could be a competitor we could use primarily when we're looking to do commercial content, really. Scuba diving vacations for beginners. This is pretty good. And then we have beginner scuba gear, definitely something we'll be doing. Calories burned scuba diving, very interesting. So yeah, you get the point. There's definitely things we can take from these competitors, and obviously more competitors will be found down the line to increase that competitor list and find more opportunities. But ultimately, this shouldn't just be a diving site. This could be other swimming activities. So yeah, definitely a lot we can do and a lot we can expand on. So this kind of summarizes our expired domains. I think there are a few questions on here that I would like to check just in case. Okay, I'm going to answer those questions. So I almost forgot, is domain age really a ranking factor? I think domain age matters. That is why I recommend working with age domains and starting off a site with an age domain, because age does matter. Because first of all, there are chances that you can skip the sandbox period if you use an expired domain, because Google knows that site. And if you're starting off fresh, you're going to have to build that trust with search engines such as Google and other search engines that you're willing to target. So I definitely think there are benefits of an age domain. Let's take a look at starting in a niche that has a medium competition. Would you recommend getting a brand new domain or an existing expired domain? This basically just I'll repeat what I said above. I recommend using an expired domain, but you can definitely work with a fresh domain. It's not essential that you start off with an expired domain. The initial investment starting off with an expired domain is much higher than if you are to use a fresh domain. So it really depends on what cash you've got available and how fast you want to scale, because fresh domains will take you longer to start getting traction, having your content ranking, etc. So definitely really depends on your situation. Let's take a look at the other questions. Nice to talk with both of you. Have a nice day. And you too, Asif. Have a lovely day. Keep watching. Okay, that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed our session with Stephen and we got as much knowledge from him as possible. I personally learned loads from that session. So thanks to everyone for tuning in and for staying to watch my H-domain teardowns. So I suppose this is it. Have a lovely rest of your day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. And I will catch you guys later.